Last week, I went to the theater and saw 2012. You talk about disasters. You know, big chunks being torn out of the earth. California sliding into the sea. All of these things that are associated with the end times. But for we Christians, it's important to note where all of this comes from. In fact, if we were sitting around 1,000 years ago when that gospel was proclaimed, unless you were part of the clergy or the nobility, you probably didn't understand a word of it because it was being proclaimed in Latin. And in the course of time, as enlightened men and women started to say, we need to understand what's in this book, you had people start to translate it into the vernacular. When it first happened in England, they burned those men at the stake and cut off their heads and all those terrible things that they would do to heretics. And after the Reformation took place with Martin Luther and with Henry VIII, eventually James I gets around to having an accurate translation of the scriptures done into the English language as they knew it at that time. And so as we would look today at this Gospel of Luke, which we're going to hear in this new liturgical season, we want to compare it with the Gospel of Mark that we heard just a few weeks ago. And in Mark's Gospel, he was very particular about all these signs of disasters. He could have been one of the writers for 2012. He was so precise in what he was predicting. But at the point that Mark was writing his Gospel, the Christian community expected Jesus to come back within a generation. Luke is writing much later than that, understands that we're going to have to wait a while for this to occur because we don't know when it's going to happen. And so Luke's message to us is, yeah, be vigilant. There are going to be signs. Watch out for them. But he's not so much doom and gloom as we see in Mark. The Lord tells us today that we're supposed to be ready at all times. That we as Christian people are supposed to be proud of who we are, to stand up for what we believe, and to watch for Him, to watch for the signs that He is coming back, that the end of time is imminent. But we're not supposed to fall into the traps that are laid for us in our daily lives. We see it all the time. Death of a loved one sends somebody off the deep end. Someone loses their job. They panic. Ill health. All sorts of situations assault us daily. And the Lord says, just be cool with that. You know, it's life. Don't fall into the trap. Watch for me. And there is a double meaning to that, watch for me today. Because it's not always meaning we have to watch for the Lord whenever He decides to come back. But it also means to watch for the Lord as we encounter Him in our daily lives. For we Christians in our baptism become Christ bearers. And you and I are called upon to witness our faith to other people. Well, I'm not saying you have to stand up here on a street corner and beat a Bible and tell people they're going to be going to hell if they're not saved. Far from that. We're supposed to be preaching the love of God to people. We're supposed to be the hands of Christ today. Or perhaps the listening ear of Christ to someone in need. Or maybe we need to speak words of comfort and love to people. There are all sorts of ways to witness our Christianity in the world, besides telling people they're going to hell. Or that the end times are near. The challenge for you and for me this week is to look for Christ in one another. To find Christ in ourselves, to find Christ in others, and to reach beyond ourselves so that we form a community, not only here at Holy Angels, but here in Orlando, in Central Florida, of Christians that are truly concerned for one another and have each other's best interests at heart.